when it comes to feminist epistemology, the idea is to remember that what different people take away from a situation, the knowledge they gain from it, tends to be a product of what they bring to the table. So a situated knower, according to our feminist epistemologist, is the specific knower from a specific perspective. The claim is we all come to a scenario with a different perspective. We have perspectives that are a product of our upbringing, our past experiences, our socioeconomic status, our gender, our race. All of that plays into our perspective. And when we go into a scenario, that perspective will inform the knowledge we gain from the scenario. And that knowledge is called situated knowledge. Situated knowledge. It's the knowledge from that specific perspective. There are 3 different epistemological views that we will glance at. There are others. We're just going to glance at these so that we get an idea of how the shift in perspective can shift our epistemological ideas. The first one is feminist empiricism. Feminist empiricism is where we simply look at empirical theories in deeper ways. We examine matters deeper. This seems strange, right? Okay, well, anybody can say that. The idea is, and it's not a very controversial idea, empiricism has been around for a long, long time, but the concern is that our past empiricists have focused on the male perspective, leaving out the feminine perspective and what it might tell us from an empirical standpoint. Consider Aristotle, who went around counting the teeth of adult men and determined that adult men have 32 teeth. He then extrapolated that adult women only have 28. And he did that because he figured women's mouths were smaller, so they have 4 fewer teeth. 1 on each side on each level, I suppose. Aristotle didn't go around counting the teeth in women. He could have, presumably. He just extrapolated from what he learned about men. So the feminist empiricist wants us to not do that, wants us to look at everything in a more methodical and deeper way. Feminist standpoint theory, by contrast, argues that different groups each have unique, albeit equal, knowledge. Now, these groups are racial groups, gender groups, socioeconomic groups, but the groups have unique, although equal, knowledge. So, in other words, men are going to have unique knowledge to women. That knowledge is equal, that neither group has superior knowledge to the other, but it is unique as a product of their gender. This might sound a little strange to you because, as some of you know, perhaps firsthand, there's a very large mixing of these groups. You can be member of a particular race, a particular gender, a particular socioeconomic status. Somebody else can have the same race and gender, but a different socioeconomic status. Somebody can have the same socioeconomic status, but a different gender and a different race. So how we choose our standpoint gets a little tricky. Not to mention, partially a product of the crossing of the groups, not all people of a particular race are going to have the same knowledge. Not all women have the same knowledge. Not all men have the same knowledge. So dividing into groups gets tricky. So finally, there's feminist post-modernism. Feminist post-modernism claims that there is no common view. There's no perspective that's better than another. Every individual has their own view, their own knowledge, and no one individual's knowledge is better or worse than another person's. So I have my own perspective, therefore I have my own knowledge. You have your own perspective, therefore you have your own knowledge. Brad Pitt has his own perspective, so he has his own knowledge. We can go on and on. Bill Gates has his own perspective, so he has his own knowledge. You're getting the idea. It's all a matter of our individual perspectives. There is no common view. There is no common perspective, and no individual's knowledge or perspective is superior to another's. One might question, under those conditions, how we ever come up with what somebody might want to call the truth. If everybody has a different perspective and everybody has different knowledge, and we don't have anything that's common, how do we in fact communicate and work with each other? It's just something to think about. Okay, lots of stuff in this module. Some of it was quite complicated. So please be certain to rewind and re-listen if you need clarification on anything. As well, if you have any questions, please send me an email. Just make sure you identify yourself in the email. Have a great week.